It's Lace again, live, talking about voting savvy. As I was talking in the very last video, voting savvy, which was follow the money, which came right on the heels of grassroots, grass tops, astroturf, what's the difference? And yes, I'll be doing essays on all of them. They'll be posted on all platforms. And if you find this content interesting, informative, make sure that you like and share and do all the other stuff. But I wanted to talk about something that put a bug in my own ear a couple of minutes ago when I was making the last video. It is a little bit too late for now, but I want to talk about propositions, specifically in California, which is what I know the most about. We talked about following the money and how sometimes voter organization names can be obscured or outright distorted or misleading when it comes to big corporations, big organizations, funding campaigns, but trying to look as grassrootsy as possible. That's partially our fault. On the one hand, we like the idea of a group of scrappy people finding something that they want to change and then going out and changing the world, except that we don't fund them. We usually think that they're outliers and not in a good way. We usually think of them as rabble-rousers and troublemakers. So even though we say that this is what we want, participatory democracy at its most basic level, in truth, we kind of like being told what to think. We kind of like having a 3-second soundbite instead of having to read every single jot and tittle of a 10-page proposition. We like basically saying, Lace Watkins, here for your kids. And that's the only thing that you take with you in the voting booth. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in Voting Savvy Part 3 or 4, not sure which order. But for now, I want to talk about the proposition process itself. Here in California, if you go into a Ralph's, if you go into an Albertsons, if you're at the beach, if you're at a park, you are probably going to see people with clipboards asking you to support any various proposition. Enough signatures needed to get it on the ballot. And that's what they'll tell you. You don't have to like it. We just want it to be on the ballot. And then they're handing it to you, sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 at a time. And they're telling you what it is in 2 to 5 second sound bites. Well, this one that you're going to be signing here, that's for schools. And then this other one is going to be for bigger health care. This other one helps senior citizens. Slow your roll. Slow your roll. You need to ask them a couple of questions. One, are they a paid signature gatherer? That does not mean that they are necessarily bad. Let's face it, it is impossible to get big messages out to large numbers of people, particularly in a state of California and in a county of San Diego that is huge and that has 18 independent cities. So yes, sometimes you're going to need someone who gets paid by the signature. Here's the thing though. If you're getting paid by the signature, you have a strong incentive to get someone to sign, which means sometimes the less scrupulous will say things that are zhuzhing it just a little, sometimes outright distortion. Usually grassroots campaigns can't afford to pay signature gatherers. So you see them, and if they say no, then I look. But you need to look anyway. You cannot take what anyone says to you, whether or not they're grassroots or astroturf, and take what they say and swallow their entire fish whole. You need to take the clipboard from them. You need to read the proposition. And you need to see if there's anything in there that'll mess things up. We saw this a few years ago in California. Very misleading ads for gay marriage, very misleading ads for single-payer health care, very misleading ads on a host of things. And the signature gatherer did nothing to create clarity. If anything, they worked to obfuscate that clarity, and that's problematic. There's also this, too. sometimes the signature gatherers don't have a whole lot of savvy themselves as to what they're pushing you to sign. Here's the thing. They'll say, well, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. This just gets it on the ballot. Well, if I don't like it, I don't want it on the ballot. It is not incumbent upon me, and I am not an opponent of participatory democracy. If I say, no, I don't want to sign this petition, you are allowed to ask if they are a paid signature gatherer. They have to answer, at least in California. Most of the time they'll try to fudge it, and they'll talk about their stories, they'll talk about their hardships, and I have a lot of compassion for that. And let's face it, most of the time paid signature gatherers are not CEOs moonlighting in front of Aldi. They are people who are of marginalized status themselves, and that has made for an ethical conundrum for myself, in the sense that they're paid signature gatherers because it's kind of an easy gig. It's an easy gig for people who are housing insecure or food insecure. It's an easy gig for people who are just coming out of rehabs. It's an easy gig for people who do this actually for a living. Sometimes they caravan. They go from county to county, state to state, doing paid signature gathering. Again, by itself, in and of itself, it's not awful. But it has to be truthful. It has to be transparent. There has to be disclosure. So when you are met with the clipboard, you're allowed to ask, are you a paid signature gatherer? That may or may not inform your decision. You are absolutely allowed to read the proposition. They don't like that. It takes a lot of time, and usually you're going to find something in there you don't like. But you've got to read it all. There are some funky things that have been pushed through propositions, because at the top of the masthead, they're saying, I keep on using trees. Hey, we're for trees. And then you go down and you go down and you go down and you go down, and there's this little teeny tiny clause that if the proposition is adopted by the citizenry, you're going to get that too. You've got to read the whole thing. You can go online and read it. You can have the interest piqued, and you cannot necessarily look at the title, because the title can sometimes be as misleading as political ads and actual campaigns. What you want to do is you want to look at the Secretary of State's neutral analysis of what this proposition will do, how much this proposition will cost. In order to be a savvy citizen and not just a blind and mindless consumer of the political landscape that swallows every fish that's presented, you need to be able to do the work. And no, you are not going to be able to do it in 3-second sound bites or signing something because someone asked you to and gave you a misleading or distorted account of it. You need to trust yourself, trust your own discernment, your ability to be able to see the flaws and holes in propositions and what the proposition isn't telling you, and certainly what the signature gatherer is not telling you.